Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back for our afternoon part of today's session. With no cards up. Oh, we have Ashley up.
I just wanted to ask for the record and for folks who are, streaming this, if the department plans to handle consensus, how they plan to handle consensus votes, whether it's topic by topic, discussion paper by discussion paper, or as a whole, because I don't believe that was announced, and I just want to make that clear.
I believe we did mention it, but perhaps not with enough clarity to make sure everyone is on the same page. So let's go over that again. We will be taking consensus as a whole on the package. The package exists with 16 regulatory provisions. Each regulatory provision will be reviewed at one time. We will take a pulse check first. Then when we are ready to take a final consensus, it's not a vote, a final consensus on the proposed amendatory text, then that will be for provision by provision. But overall, it's on the whole package though. So we'll be reviewing it provision by provision, asking you, these are the things that we agreed to, and then we'll move on, but it's the whole package. So the pulse check on the individual sections, the consensus, final consensus is on the whole entire package, all 16 provisions. Is that better?
Yes. And just a follow-up question. So are you intending to do pulse checks, we said by topic this week, and then the consensus vote is for the second session? Is that the intended schedule?
The intended schedule at this moment is for us to see how far we get through today of going through the 16 provisions that we need to go through, and tomorrow, how far we get with going through pulse checks on these 16 provisions. Given the fact that we had a very full morning on professional degree definition, the professional student definition, which it really is the professional degree part of the professional student definition. We have crafted some amendatory text that we will get to you sometime this afternoon. I have asked for that to be printed and also emailed to you because of the lateness of us getting it to you. We obviously can't just, send it. You need to have it printed as well. So we're going to be doing that as well. And then we'll talk about it again. Depending on how far we get through all of that, because we do have some other changes from yesterday that we discussed, then we'll see and we'll assess later, perhaps either this evening or tomorrow morning, as to where we are with things. So I'm not willing to say anything more than that at this moment, especially given that our senior leadership is not in the room and my boss is not right here next to me.
And sorry, another follow-up question. For purposes of these hearings, is it as far as whether or not, like, let's say, for instance, the department thinks that we've discussed everything and you're prepared for a vote, and we are not. How is that handled?
We do not take a vote. We take consensus.
Oh, so I meant vote, a consensus vote, yeah.
Consensus, final consensus. At this point, we are not going to speak to that because the powers that be that need to be making that decision are not in the room.
Okay.
So I appreciate the question. I'm not able to answer that. Okay. So we will take that back and get back to you at another time.
Okay, great. I'm just concerned that we have like a lot of outstanding issues that haven't been addressed. Obviously, we've emailed you stuff today. You haven't looked at it. I appreciate that. It's just that Tamara and I represent 3 very large constituency groups. And so communicating with them, soliciting their feedback, reflecting on new proposed language, it's a very long process. And I just want to make sure that it's not rushed.
And as I've said, we will discuss that and take that back, and we will get back with you as soon as we can.
I understand. I just would like to make my record. Thank you.
We have noted that, and we will get back to you on that. We hear you and we agree. We want to make sure that you have adequate time. Our position here is to make sure that we are not rushing the process and that we are allowed to go through everything that we need to go through, including the things that you're submitting. This is only Wednesday afternoon. It's too early to make any kind of a determination at this point what the rest of the week is going to look like. The good news for us is that we are not part of the shutdown, so we get to continue our efforts here and see just how far we can get for them.
Alex Ritchie.
Just to add some, I have a hypothetical to add some clarity to how the consensus will work, because we have 16 distinct, you said we have 16 distinct sections. Is it hypothetically possible for a person around the table to vote thumbs down even on one of those discrete 16 buckets, but thumbs up on the total overall consensus?
When we take the overall consensus, it is on the whole package. So while during the pulse checks or while we are reviewing the whole package in its entirety, that final consensus is going to be, here is the package. Let's take our final consensus check on the 16 provisions as a whole. So it can be noted that there were pieces and parts that were not with 100% certainty. You had the option for final consensus to be thumbs up, thumbs sideways, thumbs down. So that it's, do you want to say some thumbs sideways because you don't agree with every single provision, but you don't want to not provide the ability for the whole package to go forward?
Well, and I think
in
that's
consensus.
Yeah, that's what I was attempting to get at. And we're talking way far in advance here of this, right? But I'm theoretically wondering if there was significant frustrations with where one particular of the 16 buckets landed, for a constituency group to acknowledge that in the pulse check. But when it came time to the final vote, they could theoretically allow for consensus, or if that negated their ability to do that. That's all I was trying to clarify.
Because we're doing pulse checks, so the whole purpose of a pulse check is to gauge where you guys think we are, what's worked, what's not worked. Are there pieces that we have the discretion to change? Can we still negotiate through those pieces and fix what could be a no to either a middle or a yes in the respective section, reg section? The final consensus, we will not say, do you want to give final consensus on 67439? We are going to say, as we present the whole RISE, reimagining and improving student education, 2025, 16 regulatory provisions. Do you provide, when we say give a final consensus and you say up, side, or down, that's on the whole package. Ideally, we want to try to negotiate through the things that we can negotiate through, and that's what we're doing. That's everything from this morning, the 3 hours that we've spent talking about the professional student and professional degree, because of a proposal that we received last evening and additional information. It caused our undersecretary to come back with, in his words, a compromise. As of yesterday, it was a no. As of today, we had a compromise. So that's showing good faith negotiations, because you are constantly giving us the information we need to look at things from your lens, in addition to looking at things from our lens, in addition to looking at things through their lens on the legal side. So I think that what we're seeing is exactly what we would want to see. Continued negotiations around the pain points. Taking a pulse check gives me an idea, as your federal negotiator, where do we need to focus our attention on in our huddles, in our evening work? What new thing can we pull out of our hat if possible? Where can we fix something that you have pointed our attention to? And can we get to complete consensus on that? That's what we're trying to do. I am not a proponent of rushing the process by any stretch of the imagination. And I do believe that this administration, we are negotiating in good faith. And if this committee does not feel like we're ready to do things, then we need to look at that with the right people in the room so that you can exercise your voice to them and they can make the decisions. So it's not that I'm being purposely evasive, it's I can't answer that, so I'm not going to. Does that answer your question?
Just a small comment. Definitely appreciate the process of this. I do, I guess this might be a better, not even a question or comment until Jeff comes back. I just want to say that there isn't necessarily a rush. There isn't a reason for any of us to rush this because we are still slated technically for a second week of this. So I would say just a reminder to all of us in the room, like, yes, there are a lot of buckets that are, of different importances to different constituencies that we all represent here. But there's no need for us to rush to get into a decision, a final consensus by Friday. There are little bits and pieces, and we are all trying to do our best representing who we do represent. But make your voices heard. Ideally, it is just better to make your voices heard when all the people that are in the room to listen and take note of that are here. So, thank you.
There are no other cards up, so I'll turn it back to Tammy with the department.
Thank you. I'm looking through the information we received. Ashley and are you excuse me. Oh, y'all got me all so choked up. You submitted information on discretionary and general forbearances. I'm going to ask that funny story, that we table that because we had already made this morning changes to largely, well, before we saw this, that I think will speak to your very points here. So yes, we did receive that. We did look at it during lunch. But I think what you'll see is that we have accounted for the very concern that you present in this. So if you would be amenable to us going through that in that particular way, that would be a little bit better. But I don't want you to think that we finally didn't get it in our hands and we didn't take a look at it, because we did. We did receive the additional hypothetical questions. As a point of clarification, open questions with hypothetical examples from Ashley, Tamar, those are for our tomorrow session, correct?
Sorry, I know that we submitted quite a few things. Is that with regards to the repayment plans or?
It's open questions with hypothetical examples, rise committee work with hypothetical examples of how borrowers may encounter these issues, IBR and RAP.
Okay, yeah.
Plus, so that, okay, great. I just wanted to make sure because I thought that, but one would not want to assume in these circumstances. This was answered. Okay. And we did already submit all the data requests. All right, friends, we are sitting here now with the opportunity to either start going over some regulatory text. I thought that there was an appetite for another caucus. Is that still the case?
We have a question right now from Timothy.
It's just logistical. Do you have what you were just looking at on paper? Because I'm following what you're saying on the video feed. So I
Do I
can't
have
pull up both of them at the same time.
Paper. The
Yes.
hypothetical questions that they submitted,
Yeah, what Ashley,
they would be on our are they posted on our website?
yeah, I need a,
Hold on,
need
I need
to
to get, I need a logistical person to come to me, please.
thanks. Just so I can see.
Given the shutdown, I'm not sure I can answer that yet, so give me just a second, please. Okay. You are going to get copies. Everyone else will have them on their computer. Point of clarification, due to the shutdown, we are not able to post anything additional to the web for the public, or so if you do need, like Timothy will take care of getting things to you. And the rest of you, please make sure that you can access it on your computer, if at all possible. If you run into any kind of difficulty, please let us know, but we are unable to post on the web as of yesterday. Okay? Did that answer your question? Great. So back to my question. Do we need a caucus, or are we going to start going through some regulatory text?
Alex Ritchie.
I would like to call for a caucus.
Okay.
So moved.
If you could let me know who you would like in your caucus.
All negotiators except for the Department of Education.
Thank you all so much.
So this caucus will be all negotiators minus the Department of Education staff
And minus Anne Marie as well.
and minus me as facilitator. If you could let me know about how long you think you need,
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
So we are going to have someone come in and pulse check with you guys. So just, it will be a department official. So
That's
just
fine.
saying.
Yeah, that's fine.
There will be production staff in the back.
That's
They will
also
not be
fine.
recording during the caucus. Thank you for joining us again. I'd like to recognize Alex Ritchie for a report out on the last caucus.
Thank you. Just to point of clarification, point of pride, that the caucus was done with 30 seconds to spare on my 20-minute request. So, thank you. You're all very welcome. Yeah. So just the report out. I know for people trying to tune in or have been in the room, public viewers, it's been a little disjointed today. This caucus met to discuss how those conversations had been going, because there were two separate conversations, and just to get on the same page as a full group, so that we could proceed with all alacrity and speed on all of the other things that we are supposed to be clearing through here. And so we very much look forward to seeing what the department comes back with, but then also all of these other outstanding issues. We think that there's a lot of good work that still needs to be done, and we look forward to doing that with you here.
First of all, thank you so much. And we're very proud of you for you meeting the 30-second. We, however, did not, but it is because we hear you. And we have been working really hard to show you how important this is to us, that we do negotiate in good faith and that we do listen to what you're saying. And we try to do the very best with our proposed amendatory text to show you exactly how that's happening. And we will be doing that as soon as everyone gets the printed copy and they give it to us. It's really, when I say hot off the presses, friends, I mean hot off the presses. And we are very happy that you are continuing to meet as a group and understand the importance of what we are doing here today and this week. And we look forward to sharing with you the items that we need to share with you. And we'll have that shared on the screen momentarily. But what I would like to start with, if it's okay, let's start with Linnea. Can you get the fixed payment change up? Yeah, I'm not even going to go to the up. Get that off that screen. Thank you. No preview, guys.
Yeah, good point.
Put that upside down. So that you can be all happy and share, haha, I got it before y'all did. All right. So I would like to start our conversation, please, with a change from yesterday that, of course, again, another way that we heard you. We received the question about borrowers' eligibility on certain fixed repayment plans, and Linnea will pull it up so I can talk about it a little bit first. We are correcting proposed 685-208B1 to read as follows: standard repayment plan for all direct subsidized loan, direct unsubsidized loan, and direct plus loan borrowers. We have removed the words regardless of when they entered repayment, who entered repayment before July 1, 2026, and we say who have not received a direct loan on or after July 1, 2026, and for direct consolidation loan borrowers who entered repayment before July 1, 2006, and have not received a direct loan on or after July 1, 2026. We highlighted this because earlier this week, we reviewed the amendments to the Higher Education Act, and we believe that there is not a requirement that a borrower had to have entered repayment before July 1, 2026. So for the loans made before July 1, 2026, borrowers with the direct loan unsubsidized, plus loans for and who've not received a direct loan after July 1, 2026, will have access to the standard repayment plan, the 10-year repayment schedule. So that was something that you said. So that's number one that we heard you, and we made those changes. If we could switch our attention to PSLF to 685-219, please. I'll give her a second to get there, and all of you if you need to. Thank you, Alex. I'm going to start reading, and hopefully my team will get the 685-219 change up on the screen. We received a question from you about qualifying repayment plans and public service loan forgiveness. We reviewed and are correcting the proposed the definition of qualifying repayment plan to read as follows. An income in Romanet 4, an income contingent repayment plan under 685-209, which a payment was received on or before June 30th, 2028, or what's highlighted on the screen, we reviewed earlier this week, and upon reviewing the amendments, we believe that the qualifying repayment plan that includes the income contingent repayment plan for which a payment was received on or before June 30th in accordance with the changes to the Higher Education Act in Section 455M. The biggest, I guess, light bulb moment was that the repeal date and the effective date can be the same date. So we were under the assumption that the repeal date was 1 day prior to the effective date, and that's why we had chosen the date that we chose. And so it was a light bulb moment for my teammate and myself when we realized, oh, you can actually repeal and effectuate on the same day. So, you know, if we're not learning something every single day, shame on us, right? So there wasn't another change on that, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so now we have those two. So I would just like to say that's two. Now for the big reveal, again, I want to reiterate, we have been with the undersecretary all day, listening to you, talking through the things that you have said to us, the proposals that you have taken the time to give us, repeatedly coming back with new ways to force us to look at things. And we've heard that. And that's the important and the spirit of negotiations. And so when we pull this up on the screen, I can actually show you what we have chosen to do with the definition that we have spent the better part of today going through. Do you have it? Guys, are you going to pull that up for us? There you go. Thank you. So in the definition of professional student, in the highlighted section at the bottom part of the screen, if that could be moved up ever so slightly so that I could see the whole thing, please. Yes? Okay, that would be fine. If you need it, just let the guys know and they'll hand them out to you. Interim definition of professional student through June 30th, 2027. This is new. Guys ready? I mean, as ready as you can be, having just seen it. Okay. Through June 30th, 2027, professional student means a student enrolled before July 1, 2027 in a program of study that awards a professional degree upon completion of the program. A program of study that awards a professional degree is one that meets the criteria under Romanet 1 through Romanet 3 of this definition, and any other degrees that meet the following conditions. Romanet 1 existed as of July 4th, 2025, and for which students received Title IV funds in the 2024-2025 award year. Romanet 2 meets the criteria in paragraph L1 of this definition, and Romanet 3 designated by the institution as a professional degree. An institution designates a program as a professional degree as evidenced by providing clear and conspicuous information describing such program of study to current and prospective students in accordance with Section 668-43. We would like to hear your feedback.
Andy?
First question on Romanet 1, or is that I? Romanet 1. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Okay, I got it. Do you mean that the program existed anywhere in Title IV or at the school specific, that school specifically?
So we are talking specifically about that program. This would be at the institution level.
Institution.
So we would expect that that would be
Okay.
in existence at that institution. So it wouldn't be that it existed at this school over here and then we would adopt that
Yeah, sure.
principle over.
I would
yeah.
ask that the department could clarify that in the language then, because that would be up for interpretation. And most schools would probably add a program that wasn't there before.
We could clarify it for sure in the preamble and make it inherently clear, and we can take that back to see if. Go ahead, Jake.
So, yeah, I was talking to you. I said it shouldn't hurt for us to make it clear in the reg if we have to, but
No,
definitely in the preamble.
right.
Okay. Romanet 3, the designation. It seems to indicate that if the program today is not classified on your EAP as a professional designation program, that doesn't matter. This is, in other words, the institution designates this program as a professional degree by new or current information to the prospective or current students about this designation. Do I have that correct? Does that make
I
sense?
think you do have to look at Romanet 1 where it says existed as of July 4th, 2025, and for which students received Title IV funds in the 2024-25 award year.
So the basis for my question and clarification is there are a lot of mental health programs that would qualify that don't currently, because there's no reason to before. The school really didn't care about professional designation until July 4th of this year. So therefore, schools had an opportunity to switch their EAP to professional designation, but no one did because it didn't matter at that time. This doesn't eliminate those, correct? This just says in the future, professional, not past professional designation. Is that correct?
We specifically chose not to go off of the EAP because for the reason that you specified, and so by pointing to 668.43, which is the consumer information, that includes your course catalog and the other forward-facing, we figured, institutions have been calling these professional programs. It's a term of art there. And so what we did not want is a situation of graduate programs suddenly becoming graduate programs as considered by the institution suddenly becoming professional programs for purposes of this.
Can I run one scenario past you? Is that okay to do?
We'll do our
If we
best.
we call our programs professional practice programs in our literature in the catalog too. Would that qualify?
If it meets all the criteria, it would.
So the program existed as of July 4th, paragraph 1, Romanet 1. That goes back up to
Could you move the screen, guys, on the screen share? Could you go up a little bit to the first part of that?
Yep. So beyond bachelor's, got it. And then Romanet 3 would say the institution has, as of July 4th of 25, somewhere in its literature website or catalog, classified the program in some form of professional. It doesn't have to be that exact term, but professional practice or professional something seems to like it would qualify.
We are not going to regulate ourselves on that.
Yeah.
So we would state if it meets the conditions that are in the proposed regulations, then it meets the conditions in the proposed regulations for a professional student.
And sorry to get in the weeds, but this is an important detail. 668.43 is consumer information that's public facing, correct?
Correct.
And does 668.43 go back up to Romanet 1, that literature had to be published by July 4th, 2025 to be eligible?
So 668.43 was the best reference that we had. That was a cross-reference that encompassed all of the information that we require that goes out to students. And so that has been there for a very long time and has been added on and changed over the years as technology has changed. But yes, it encompasses a very wide degree of communications to students and
Okay.
publications.
But specifically on 668.43, does that refer to Romanet 1 and that, let's say that you're pointing to your school catalog as the professional wording that's been used. If that catalog was printed on July 5th of 25, would it still qualify? I know I'm getting into the weeds here, but the details are important. In other words, does Romanet 1 and 3, do those connect or are those separate?
So we view those as separate.
Okay.
I don't think there's any real reason to clearly connect them. I mean, we don't want you suddenly creating information to basically, try to work something in here. But we view Romanet 1 as covering most of that. You can't automatically just create a new program that has no licensure, right? But your marketing materials will change. We recognize that. And 66843 covers a very wide base of information. And we realize that is information that is being published consistently and constantly by schools. So to the extent that is a little bit in flux, I think that's okay.
Okay, thank you for the information.
So we have Alex Holt, then Jenna, then Scott.
Few clarifications and probably a comment. Actually, I think Andy just got the clarification, so I'll move right to the comment. The fact that Romanet 1 and Romanet 3 are not connected is, in my opinion, very problematic. With all due respect, Jake, that's exactly what the schools are going to do. They're going to say that even if they didn't call it a professional program before, they will call it now. So every master's in social work will meet this definition, the first part of the definition under professional student. And then for 1 year, the department is going to acknowledge legally that a master's in social work is a professional degree. And then suddenly, it wasn't again. That opens up a lot of litigation, would be my concern. So I think that the fact, I don't fully understand why you guys didn't go with the EAP. I think that if you had said that you would select the the EAP is tied to iPads, is that right? Yeah, something like that. Anyways, the way that the school, like if you said in this, I'm not going to do the exact legal language, but if you said basically, okay, look, we get it. All of you schools were professional degrees at the state. You designated yourself as professional degrees as to your understanding of this definition on the date of enactment. And for 1 year, we're going to allow that to continue. I would be like, oh, okay. That seems rather limited and it's going to stop, from opening up the floodgates. My concern here is that now you're actually saying the school can look at Romanet 1 under number 1 under professional student, say that this very expansive definition, in fact, encompasses their degree. They put in their marketing materials. So if I'm misunderstanding what's going on, then please correct.
Yeah, so it says evidence by. There is past tense. We don't want schools creating new information. They're not, as I said, they're not directly linked here. There's not a cross-reference between them for that reason. But that being said, because it says designated by, we expect that to be evidenced by that. To the extent that there are materials that are produced after July 5th that reference it as a professional degree, that's fine. But we would expect to see some sort of evidence beforehand that the school treated it as a professional degree, linked it to professional licensure, or had, something within their materials that told students that this is a professional degree.
So would there be any reason to not put into Romanet 3 as evidenced as of July 4th, 2025, as evidenced by as of July 4th, 2025? Because right now it's as evidenced by, you're using the past tense, but there's no date linked to the past tense.
We'll edit the language.
That is,
Can we live stream, guys? Jake will tell you what to add and where?
and clearly that was the intent. Again, we didn't rely on some of the reporting to the department because the information was not collected for that purpose. And we did not have reasonable assurances that, all of it was consistent. So, again, we believe that the term graduate and professional, are also used outside in just generally in the industry and in academia. And so, we found that as evidence. But again, the intent here was to capture programs as they were as of the date of enactment.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be that combative. I just got a little worked up.
Yep.
We'll give the team a couple minutes to get that updated and we'll show it to you so that you guys can look at this and then we'll do a pulse check on this. Any additional comments?
We have
Alyssa?
Jenna up next.
So I want to be cognizant of the idea of schools fraudulently or gaming the system for this 1 year window. I would hope that they would not do that, right? But I also think that before July, there was no incentive for the schools to include this professional language in their marketing materials because it didn't mean anything. It was how we counted completers when we submitted data to iPads. So if we're going to look at the materials at a point in time when there was no incentive to identify it in that way, I'm not sure how helpful that is. I mean, I don't think it's reflective necessarily of how the program considers itself or if it designated. I mean, this is whole new territory. So the existence of evidence of intent is, I think, a little bit challenging.
I think, Jenna, what we're trying to get at here is you have in the course catalog, for example, programs listed as graduate programs. And so the opposite is true, right? So we would then say then those programs are not considered as professional programs for this interim period. I think that's really what we're trying to get around there. So yeah.
Jenna, did you have a follow-up to that? Go ahead.
Okay, so as an example, an MPH program is a master's degree program, but it is in the School of Public Health, not in the graduate school at a particular campus, right? Where all the PhDs are. It's in a separate discipline school. That would be evidence of it treating it differently than a regular graduate program.
That is true. I think the other question is, are you considering it to be a professional? Is it being considered as a professional program? Oh, excuse me, a professional degree.
Scott?
My question has to do with a scenario that I raised during the caucus. And so am I allowed to bring up that scenario again and ask for clarification on that?
Absolutely.
Okay, just because I wanted to make it understand what programs were grandfathered in and which ones weren't. And I think my question was related to, did this apply to all graduate programs, regardless of whether they were considered professional or not, that would get this additional year? This seems like that they've added in, and the institution considers them professional now, not by the criteria under 1 Romanet 2. I understand that, but as far as clarifying it, I was under the impression that it was all graduate students got a year to get their situation in order and the schools to figure out before everybody was applied to the lower loan limits, annual loan limits. So is that my misunderstanding? Or did it, from our discussion this morning, did that change that the determination was made that it's only those that schools currently consider professional under their own criteria, under their own definition as of July 4th, 2025, would be grandfathered in and not all graduate and professional students?
Correct me if I'm wrong, we were trying to clarify the professional student part, right?
For when under the number 1 Romanet 2, yes.
But as far as what would be grandfathered and what institutions, what students would have a chance to get used to this in time. And if it was a change from our discussion this morning, I understand that. But I mean, I had given a scenario of one that was clearly not a professional degree. It was a master's degree program. That yes, that kind of program would be grandfathered in.
We need a sidebar for a minute.
Jeff, your microphone is on.
Yeah, so to address that, so, again, the purpose here was to continue the status quo before the permanent definition kicked in, because we knew that there wasn't enough, that some institutions wanted to have more time to work with accreditors and that sort of thing. And so we know that there are programs out there that people are considering professional. You know, that would not continue to be professional programs on the new definition. And so we're trying to allow for that situation, such as I'm hesitant to throw an example out because people are going to like jump on that, but essentially some of the programs that we've talked about that are like eligible, for example, for the health professions levels that aren't on that list there. That's the type of program that we're trying to say it can continue to be professional because it's a continuation of the current status quo during the transition period. So if you were considered, so if it was a professional program it was considered by institutions, identified by students as professional programs on July 4th, 2025. We want to allow that to continue forward for that period, and then have the permanent definition kick in on July 1, 27.
So,
Well, and
Scott, I need to clarify something. You asked us if we changed some of the definition from earlier today, where we did say that additional programs could be added. That's the part that you're questioning?
no, what I'm questioning, and I'm glad Jeff said status quo, because that's the word
Okay.
I was searching for. I was asking for clarification on what status quo meant, and it was not clear at the time, and maybe that was my misunderstanding, that it was status quo that they're currently, or as of July 4th, 2025, listed as professional, but don't meet the definition of number 1 Romanet 2. Those are being grandfathered in. But everybody else, if they're in a graduate program and the school has not listed them as professional. And the reason I ask that is because I asked from the perspective of it's October 1st. There are students who are applying for graduate school right now and making decisions. And if this is not going to become, permanent or steadfast until the point where they have to decide yes or no, am I going? And if they find out that they can't afford it, they've lost out on opportunities to apply to other programs to which they could afford based on the loan limits that some are grandfathered in and others are not.
But when we're talking about grandfather, and we're talking about during the interim year, that students who come in that interim year are able to finish their studies under the loan levels that they came in at, assuming the same concept as essentially grandfathering in or letting students finish out that had access to Direct Plus, for example. So we're not grandfathering in the programs per se. We're giving that interim year, and then those students that came in during that interim year would be allowed to continue funding at those levels to complete their program.
Yeah, just to tag on to that, I mean, it's very clear from the statutory text that Congress wanted us to treat graduate professional students differently. The loan limits, are baked in there, and they include both of those definitions for a reason. So we thought it was inappropriate to just fully reference the same definition or treat the two as interchangeable. We built in these definitions or this language about, existing programs and programs that the schools treated or, marketed to students about as professional programs that lead to professional licensure, to avoid the moral hazard of schools creating a lot of programs in 1 year, or alternatively designating programs that are clearly academic graduate programs from as professional graduate programs, because we feel that would still be inappropriate and inconsistent with the HEA. And so we think that this is a little bit of a balancing thing. It's giving the schools, as Jeff said, the ability to preserve the status quo, to give their students what was offered, but it doesn't create too much of a moral hazard for abuse by schools.
Yeah, follow up just. I understand and appreciate that, but at the same time, there is with the example from yesterday, Masters in Underwater Basket Weaving is currently marketed right now as under certain loan limits because they would not be included in it, and students are applying for it right now. They may find out in January, February that the previous loan limit that was there is now $2,500 per year annual loan limit. And so that's why I asked for clarification on what status quo meant. And maybe I misunderstood, but I just, want to state for the record that was the reason or some concern, not a deal breaker, but some concern why ask for clarification on what status quo meant. Because we have students that are going to be impacted by it.
Andy?
2 points of clarification. The current status of the designated health programs that get right now the extra Stafford or extra loan amounts, there's a total of 11 programs on there. You're saying that would be one way to classify professional that would be acceptable for the department, those 11 programs listed in the designation status right now on that part? That's not professional designation, it's the covered certain health profession programs. FSA handbook, I'm sorry.
Right, but that's information on our website. We would expect to see the information on the institution's website, not ours.
I think that's where we're going to get into a challenging area. So, for example, we might list one of our programs as professional practice, but our competitor who has the same exact program may not.
It's going to be institution by institution. So you're going to look at your institution and are you meeting the criteria defined when we have it back up on the screen? Are you meeting those conditions? And if your school meets those conditions, that program would be considered a professional degree. We're not going to have you compare to another school because that's not the intent of what we're doing here. This is an institution by institution, your responsibility. And 668.43 is your information that's public facing, not someone else's information that's public facing. I hope that provides the distinction.
It does, but clarification. So Alex's suggestion for language to add to Romanet 3, will that say effective as of July 4th of 25?
So I want to remind everyone that while this is not going to sweep in every single program, what we're trying to do here is adding more than what we initially provided for. I mean, we've proposed this, we've changed it, we've gone from saying nope to let's change it. Then we've gone to saying, okay, let's really change it even more and give more and more. And so we're doing all that we can here to give the parameters by which this interim definition of a professional student would be applicable.
Ashley?
Just have a clarifying question regarding subsection L, Romanet 1. Is there a reason why the language reads a level of professional skill beyond that normally required for a bachelor's degree versus required completion of a bachelor's degree?
Professional.
I'm sorry?
That's what the definition of professional support. It's that one step further plus.
Yeah, I just thought the term normally required was a bit strange.
So the statute references the definition in 668.2, and that's in the definition of 668.
Okay, so it just mirrors that
Yeah.
language. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for clarifying.
Jenna and then Timothy?
So just as an observation, there was no economic incentive for marketing this way before, but we did, at least at the doctoral level, have to report in the completer survey in iPads our professional graduates. That's how we're gathering the data that Alex used for his proposal. So at the graduate level, the colleges are, I think, indicating their intent to treat a program as a professional program when they record their graduates on the completer survey that way. That reporting doesn't exist for the master's program, which was why I requested that yesterday, but that could be a way to understand internal intent for this transition period. Second point, I think we talked about this morning that I'm not sure that I see in the language is the idea that once that the student who comes in under this transition has it through their period of enrollment. I know we talked about that, and I see you nodding your head, but I'm not sure that there's words that say that. And then my third question, idea, suggestion is that if we're going to look at marketing material language as the hook for whether we've treated it as a professional program, perhaps language around marketing towards professional licensure, because that is the foundational principle in Romanet L1.
Jeff, did you want to respond to that?
Sure. We can certainly take back iPads as a proxy. I think everybody knows sort of where we're trying to go here, right? So we're trying to, again, continue the status quo. The documentation that we're looking at is we want documentation contemporaneous with the July 4th, 2025 period and before, not after the fact. And again, I think everyone knows our intent is we don't want to see graduate programs suddenly becoming professional programs during this period. So as long as we're all on the same page, and I mean, we're certainly willing to look at other proxies. That reference was, our first stab at it, because we thought it was a very comprehensive set of information sources. So, but we're certainly willing to look at other sources.
Tammy, did you have something else you wanted to respond to?
I do. Jenna, to get to your point, under the definition section, we talk about what expected time to credential is. And that is that what you're talking about, like making sure that they get that exception?
That the interim
Mhm.
definition applies through the words that you just said.
Okay, so if they meet the criteria under there, they would automatically get that. Because it says from July 1, 2026, the expected time for a student to complete would be, if I'm understanding your question, I'm afraid I'm not understanding the question correctly. Could you please clarify for us?
So if the student is enrolled in a program of study past July 1, 2027, do they still continue?
To receive the professional designation.
To receive the professional designation?
I believe if we're looking right here where it says the limitations in effect on July 1, 2026 for annual loan limits as described in paragraph B to Romanet 4A of this section shall not be applicable to student borrowers during the period if the student's expected time to credential if the student is enrolled in a program of study at an institution as of June 30th, 2026 and received a direct loan. And if the student ceases to be enrolled in that program of study at any time after receiving the exception, then the limits would apply. So if I'm understanding your question correctly, this is telling us that for periods of enrollment beginning on or after July 1, 2026, which would fall into this interim definition of a professional student, if these professional students continue to do what they're supposed to do, then yes, we don't have to put it in here because they are covered already in this. You're welcome.
Tammy, we have cards up from Alex and Scott, but do you need a 10-minute break? I'm
If you're
seeing,
offering us a break, we will certainly take one.
I am offering you a break,
Then we will take one.
10 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. The cards that were up before the break are now down. People have withdrawn their comments. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Tammy, to get us started.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thanks again for bearing with us. We are making tweaks to the professional degree, professional student, based on a couple of things that we missed and additional things that you brought to our attention. So what we're going to do is we're going to punt to the issue paper, the discussion draft that I mentioned. And we're going to start with 685-210 and do pulse checks on the reg text. This is a reg text that we went through yesterday with specificity, that there were no issues or discussions around changes or anything like that. So what we're going to do is, as the reg text is on the screen, we're going to go through the provision. I'll point your attention to where the reg text is, and then we'll have a pulse check on this regulatory provision, and we'll go through the rest of the discussion draft and get pulse checks on this reg text.
Ashley?
So I believe some of the emails we sent today sought clarification on changing between repayment plans. So I'm not confident that I'm able to do a pulse check without getting those answers.
Jeff?
Actually, maybe the way to handle that is just to sort of flag the particular section and say, hey, we sent you language on this particular section, and then we flag it. We know it's something that has to go back and be revisited. But we're just trying to do a walkthrough and nail down as much where we don't have disagreements as we can.
Are you specifically speaking about the save and repay?
Yeah, and then also IBR and RAP.
Okay. We'll get to that, and then you can flag it for us.
Yep.
As you'll see on the screen, 685-210, the red lines are largely cosmetic at first, and then we have inserted Romanet 2, A, B, tiered standard repayment assistance plan, and then clarifying with the dates in paragraph 2. Romanet 2, we've added for direct loans made on or after July 1. If the borrower does not select a repayment plan, the secretary designates the tiered standard plan. On Romanet 3, we've added the borrower of a direct plus loan or an accepted consolidation loan. We've added that language. We've added paragraph B, the borrower who has received an accepted loan as defined under 685-210 with clarifying language. Under B1, we've clarified that it's for direct loans made before July 1, 2026. Romanet 1, same. Romanet 3, the same. For Romanet 1, the same, and added if, and in addition of, or the repayment assistance plan, and added for the standard repayment plan. We further clarified a cross-reference in paragraph B. Romanet 2, we've added for direct loans made before July 1, 2026. July 1, 2026. We've added paragraph 5, Romanet 1, Romanet 2. And those are the amendments to 685-210. Ashley, are you good with that, or do you have something?
Sorry, I'm consulting with my constituency right now. I'm getting messages, so I wanted to just review that if that's okay.
Absolutely. So we will just move on to the next provision while you're doing that.
We have a card up, Tammy, from
Oh,
Scott.
we will not move on to the next provision while you're reviewing that.
Go ahead, Scott.
It's quick, I promise, and I just want to reiterate my concern about using the term made. And I know I raised it once before, and I don't recall where we left it last time that you were going to go back and look at it, but I just reiterate that it'd be in the borrower's best interest to use more clarifying language what made actually meant, whether it's dispersed when repayment meant, use some of the same terminology that is used in NSLDS.
It equals dispersed. We could clarify that in the NPRM to make sure that that's specified and clearly understood. Thank you. Section 685-211, miscellaneous repayment provisions. Give you guys a second to get there if you need it. We've added or repayment assistance plan in Romanet 1 under paragraph 1. Again, in Romanet 2, we've added the repayment assistance plan. We've added in the precedence of order A, B, added and late charges, and then removed late charges from C and added C as loan, not added, but changed D to C. Romanet 2, we've added after direct consolidation loan that is not an accepted consolidation loan as defined in section 685-209, or a student direct plus loan, the secretary may designate the repayment assistance plan or the income-based repayment plan for the borrower. We could take a pulse check on that particular provision. Ashley's got a card up.
Ashley?
Yeah, so with regard to section 685-210, we've had posed a couple of hypos that implicate this section regarding borrowers with existing FFEL loans pre-July 1st, 2026, who then take out direct loans after July 1st, 2026. So that was part of the clarification we're requiring before I can give up an actual pulse check vote, not vote, pulse check.
So they would have a new loan. They would be considered a new borrower.
Correct.
I need to look at your scenario, so hold on. The clarification you're needing is what?
Yeah, so for borrowers who had existing FFEL loans, so ones that existed before July 1st, 2026, and then they take out a direct loan after July 1st, 2026, how my understanding is that they're supposed to be repaying in the same repayment plan, but obviously FFEL that is not eligible for RAP. So how would that work?
Can we have Eric Hardy, expert from Federal Student Aid, come up, please?
Eric Hardy, FSA. So the requirement that all loans are paid under the same repayment plan is just for the direct loans. All of them are required to be under the same plan minus the accepted direct loans. The FFEL loans would maintain their same eligibility for the existing plans. And we're going to walk through some examples tomorrow.
Eric, would you look behind you? That's our bat signal.
Thank you, Eric.
Look, if we can't have fun with our family, what is there, right? Ashley, does that clarify your concern?
Yes, there's gonna be one more question because I think, or I have another question. I don't know if you want to move ahead and come back to me, or do you want me to continue?
Charge after the first question.
We can take a pulse check on it, 685-211. And then come back to 210.
Oh, sorry. Okay, because I have another 210 question.
Now?
Yes.
Okay, let's go.
Ooh, I'm sorry. Okay. Wondering if you can confirm whether 685-210 B1 means that for legacy direct loans made before July 1st of 2026, the borrower can change from RAP to IBR or vice versa at any time?
You said for direct loans before July 1, 2026?
Correct.
And they've selected a plan or they haven't selected a plan?
Well,
because this is talking about them not selecting the plan. So in B, you said B, Romanet 1? Am I in the right spot?
Sorry, yes, B1.
I'm sorry, B, okay, I think I'm on the wrong thing. Changing repayment plans, B.
Yes,
Oh,
sorry,
okay,
changing repayment.
sorry.
We're just basically wondering if borrowers who had loans before July 1st of 2026 who are eligible for IBR and RAP, if they're able to change between those two plans.
They may not change unless, so it's saying right here, a borrower who is repaying a defaulted loan under the IBR plan or who is repaying a direct consolidation loan under an IDR plan in accordance with 685-220D1 Romanet 1 capital A3 may not change to another repayment plan unless those three provisions didn't change. We didn't make any amendments in those. For direct loans made before July 1, 2026, if a borrower no longer wishes to repay under the IBR plan, the borrower must pay under the standard plan or the repayment assistance plan. And for the standard plan, then we talk about a whole lot of stuff. Does that answer your question? Do you want to know if they can switch back and forth? Only before July 1, 2028.
So to confirm, you're saying that borrowers who are eligible for IBR and RAP can change between the two until 2028? Is that what you said?
Yes, Jake. Go ahead.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Oh, I was trying to repeat what you said. Oh, so so basically I was saying if a borrower has eligible loans for IBR and RAP, you're saying that they can switch between the two plans until June 30th of 2028?
Yeah, we believe that to be the case. Although I do see Eric is typing in the chat, so it's possible he has an operational take on this.
So pre-2026 loans, they can pay under IBR as long as they don't get another direct loan. So they can stay under IBR.
Well, Eric said that, I believe he said that if FFEL loans that were pre-July 1st, 2026, and so if the borrower has a FFEL loan pre-July 2026, they're an IBR, and then they get a direct loan after July 1st of 2026, those loans are eligible for RAP. I thought he just said that they can repay those in separate repayment plans. Is that not what was just said?
No, yes, they can. But you were saying the reg text doesn't say that? Who's saying the reg text doesn't
I thought
say
you were just said something contradictory.
that? No.
Oh, then maybe I
No.
misunderstood what you said.
That signal, Eric Hardy, please.
Eric Hardy, FSA. I think the real question is once the borrower with a direct loan pre-July 1, 2026 moves to RAP, can they come back to IBR after being in RAP?
Yes, that was my other, yes, that was, okay.
Right, and I don't know the answer.
Well, it's not necessarily that, but let's say their income drops low and then they would be eligible for $0 plan under IBR. They're going to want to switch out of RAP because it's more affordable.
We're going to take that back.
Okay, so this is part of the hypos I was posing. That's why I didn't want to put you on the spot, but this is.
Please put me on the spot. We're good. No, we can't answer that. So let's table. We won't do the pulse check on 685-210, but we'll move to 211. How about that? And then we'll get back to you tomorrow on 685-210 when we've had a chance to chart out exactly what you're asking. Thank you. Anne Marie.
Okay. We do have one card up first. Let's go to Faisal.
Just a small thing. Bob, Karen, and we would like to switch if permissible for 685-211.
For 685-211.
No, because you're the primary and you're the only one that will provide.
They're allowed to switch out by sections according to the protocols.
So,
We already on
but we're on to,
We've already started that section is what you're saying.
Yes.
So it would not be a time to switch.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm Kerry, military and veteran. I'll be quick. I don't know where we stand on the amendatory text regarding the reserve and guard mobilization. But there are some elements to military payments under the Civil Service and Civil Relief Act and under the Higher Education Opportunity Act that I don't think there's anything in particular that's driving against those provisions for military, veteran, reserve, and specifically reserve and guard students. But there's a potential, in talking to our constituents, that some of this stuff that is being put in this may supplant the previous regulations. So they're getting us some, some potential language, and we think put it in 211 under miscellaneous provisions. It may make it easier, and that's why I just wanted to raise it under 211.
So it doesn't belong under 211. We appreciate, we have some proposed mandatory text coming for that, but we do not believe it is applicable to go under 685.
That's fine. I was just trying to figure out where to put it.
We have figured that out. Thank you so much, because you haven't seen that yet, so I can understand why you have that concern, but we have addressed that elsewhere in the regulations for the provisions that we haven't gone over yet today. We did have that to go over this morning, but we've been a little busy with that professional degree stuff.
I raise it now because
Yep, we've got it.
we were saying pulse check, and I wanted to make sure that it was known.
Yes, sir. We're doing the pulse check on the sections for which we're in, but we do have that in a different regulatory provision. Jeff?
Yeah, that deals with, it's the issue of when a student ceases to be continuously enrolled. Yeah, the forbearance.
So are we ready for the pulse check? This is on 685-211. So as a reminder, thumbs up means that you support the proposal. Thumbs down means that you do not support it. And if we were doing a consensus check, which we are not yet, but if we were, you would be willing to block that proposal. Thumbs in the middle is that you do not fully support it, but you would not block it either. And if you choose not to participate in the pulse check, that would be an abstention. So if I can get thumbs. I see thumbs up from everyone except Ashley with a thumb in the middle. Did I miss anyone? Okay, thank you very much.
I believe we're moving on to section 685-219. And the provision here that we are changing, I've mentioned earlier that we now know that we can have a repeal and an effective date on the same day. Anne Marie, I think we're having a switch out over there. It's okay. No, we have to acknowledge it. It's perfectly fine. We just need to acknowledge it for the record. It's all good. No worries.
Bye.
So,
Solomon.
welcome back. So in Romanet 4, we have changed the date to June 30th instead of June 29th. And then, of course, in Romanet 5, we've added that the repayment assistance plan is defined under section 685-209. It would be considered a qualifying repayment plan.
Are you ready for a pulse check?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we have a question first from Faisal.
Just clarifying question. So in language there, it says that for which a payment is received on or before June 30th, 2028. How would it address, I guess, a payment that's, I guess, in the middle of processing that wasn't received yet? I guess like it was like already submitted. Just some question on that.
Eric Hardy, FSA, do we have an answer? So for a payment that is being processed but hasn't like fully been processed, what would we do with those? Is it covered under the received on or before because we've received it already? So we have to remove the bat signal.
Received.
Received on or before. So that would mean we would have to have it on or before. So it's not a payment that's in process because the way,
And if it is in process and it's backdated to June 30th, 2028, like let's just say, just a bad scenario here that the payment was misdirected to the wrong servicer, and it would, through our electronic process, it would still be backdated effective June 30th, 2028.
because it was received, just not processed correctly. So as long as it's received.
So as long as our lockbox
Mhm.
has
Okay.
received the payment, it'll
So-
count for that date.
If a person who submits their payment on the 30th electronically, then you might not receive it until the next day afterwards, then that doesn't count.
No, it would count. It would have been marked as received
Okay.
on June 30th by the
Um,
bank.
But I guess if a person who submits via paper check, snail mail, then probably not.
Probably
Okay.
not.
Thank you.
Are we ready for a pulse check for 219? Okay, thumbs, please. So I show thumbs up from everyone with the exception of Ashley, who has a thumb in the middle. Did I miss anybody? Okay, thank you. Ashley?
Sorry, I'm all over the place. I wanted to just clarify something. I believe you addressed it today, Tammy, but I just wanted clarification. This was in regards to the question we emailed you, for borrowers who are enrolled in RAP and they're placed in their repayment term is longer than the 10 years because of the balance of their loans. And we asked if they could make some sort of request so that that payment could qualify if it met that 10-year standard amount. That was our initial concern, and I believe you said that was not possible, but I wanted clarification on that.
Let me get to my notes.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead. Yeah. Well,
He said no. Right, but this was not about PSLF. This was where borrowers are placed in the tiered standard.
oh yeah, so I meant tier standard. I'm sorry. Yeah, but this is for PSLF qualifying because it's a qualifying repayment.
Okay, well, it did not, okay, in order to qualify for PSLF.
Yeah, because sub Romanet 3 says, except for the alternative repayment plan, any other repayment plan, if the monthly payment amount is not less than what would have been paid under the 10-year standard.
Where are you at, Ashley?
If I'm not mistaken, Ashley, I need you to put a pin in that because for this provision, this is only the provision we're looking at, not the previous 685-219 provision that we're talking about. Yes, well, you're not on the wrong section, but 685-219 had two respective changes to it. In this particular instance, this is the only thing we're asking you to do a pulse check on, not the other pieces of PSLF.
The change in the date. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, ma'am.
Which is what I brought up yesterday. You changed it. Got it.
Correct. We changed it because of you. See how well we listen? And then you gave us a sideways thumb.
You didn't do good enough.
All right. I don't really know. I don't really know what to say to that. I'm not sure there's anything that we could change in this provision right here that would change your decision of the sideways thumb. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to go to 685-220. Okay, the changes here. In paragraph A, we create a paragraph A before July 1, 2028, and we clarify adding an or, and then say in paragraph B, on or after July 1, 2028, the borrower has a federal consolidation loan that is in default or has been submitted to the guarantee agency by the lender for default aversion, and the borrower wants to consolidate the federal consolidation loan into the direct loan program for the purpose of obtaining the income-based repayment plan or repayment assistance plan. And then under paragraph H, we add paragraph into paragraph 1 for a direct consolidation loan made before July 1, 2026. We strike out for a direct consolidation loan. And then we add paragraph 2 for a direct consolidation loan made on or after July 1, 2026. The borrower may choose the tiered standard plan or the repayment assistance plan in accordance with sections 685, 208, 209, and may change repayment plans in accordance with 685, 210. Under paragraph 2, Romanet 1, we update the cross references accordingly. The same thing in paragraph Romanet 2. In paragraph 3, Romanet 1, we update the cross references again. And that is it for this respective section. And yes, we're ready for a pulse check unless there's any questions.
Ashley,
So
and then Alex.
I think some of the questions or hypos we posed come into play in this section. So I would prefer not to have to participate in this pulse check until that's clarified. If that's okay.
That's fine. We can get the rest of the questions though.
Alex?
Just a real quick clarification in D2A, when you say income contingent repayment plan or an income-based repayment plan, is it because it's a lowercase that includes RAP basically? Is that how I should interpret that?
I'm sorry, I need to get there. Hold on.
Okay, no problem.
Where B, Romanet 2, I'm
Yeah, no, B. I mean,
B. Oh,
yeah.
B. Okay.
No, I'm sorry, A, not B, A. Near the bottom of A, it says an income contingent repayment plan or an income-based repayment plan.
So that is like the blanket term of income contingent and income based. It's not because it's not capitalized. It means the umbrella term.
Got it. Thank you.
Is that okay? No,
Yeah.
no questions?
No.
I mean,
Well,
is it okay?
That answers my question.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ugh. Section 685 to 21, alternative repayment plan. We have clarified in paragraph A who has not received a direct loan on or after July 1, 2026 and then in paragraph E, we have inserted the repayment plan under this section shall only apply to direct loans made before July 1, 2026. Unless there are any questions, we're ready for a pulse check.
If I could see thumbs for 685, 221. I see all thumbs up.
Can we go back to 685, 219 now that Ashley, you understand that it's only that one provision for this pulse check that you requested that we make? Will that change your thing? It's only this provision. It's not the other stuff.
Yes, can you just give me 1 second? I just need to read something from a.
Sure. Renee, if you're in the room, can you make your way to me, please? Oh, there you are. I couldn't see. So point of clarification for the committee. If you have open questions with the word hypothetical in there, I'm not going to look at that as an actual as an open question. So Ashley, I apologize that we did not go over this, but because I saw the hypotheticals in there, I assumed that this was for our conversation tomorrow and not today. So we are going to need time to look at this. And my apologies for not recognizing. Please do not put the word open with anything hypothetical so that I don't forget, I don't miss that the next time. My apologies. I will get to, Ashley, are you ready or do you need a few more minutes? It's fine. Just whatever you need. That's okay.
I think at this time, we're wanting more clarification before I can.
Clarification on that particular change?
So it's not, I mean, appreciate the change in the date, so it has nothing to do with that. We're looking at the provision as a whole, and so we have a question regarding how the new tiered standard plan interplays with that section. And so we posed the question in an email, and I got just a no response, and so I guess we're hoping for a little bit more explanation so that we can better understand your rationale.
Okay. All right. Well, at this time, we are still waiting to get the document printed. We can put it up on the screen, but that does not help. We're just going to have to wait a couple minutes. So we're just going to have to take a break until we have the printed document. So take 5 minutes maybe.
So we'll take a break until 3:45. Welcome back, everyone. We have a card up from Faisal.
Thank you for the edits and changes. I just want to point out there's a missing colon after study.
Okay, so if you'll wait, we'll go over that.
Yeah.
And then you can tell us that. We gave that to you because we didn't have time to get it recirculated, but we do want to go over it quickly first. So as soon as we're official, we can go ahead and do that. We're official, we can go ahead and do that. Okay, so what we'd like to point out to you, absent a specific semicolon or colon somewhere that we will add in just a minute, we have indicated the changes here in darker color. That's really a bright color on that screen. On or before July 4th, 2025. And we have an or after the A. And then we have added additionally in B to the department, and we've crossed out provided on or before. Our intent in B is data to the department that includes iPads, that capture e-card. So the things that you suggested to us for inclusion, we would say that those pieces are in the data reported to the department or to current prospective students in accordance with 6843 or to the department. Additionally, we are saying that if the professional degree gets the student to professional licensure, then that meets the criteria for this, for the designated by the institution as a professional degree section.
Yeah, for the purposes of sub-Romanet 3, if the marketing materials or something indicates to the student that it is a degree at or at the graduate level or above a bachelor's degree that provides a pathway to professional licensure, we're going to count that.
So, Faisal, where are we supposed to put our typographical? Is it under Romanet 3?
I think it's after program of study.
Romanet 3?
Yes, thank you. I was like, so many colors. Yes.
Well, we want to, we like the rainbow here, and we wanted to make sure that we had Roy G. Bibb all through it. Okay, so we'll add that semicolon. Okay. Anne Marie, if it's possible, can we take questions now?
Yeah.
I am very mindful of the time. We had 8 minutes. We're hoping that we can finish this discussion on this. We are not going to revisit this tomorrow.
So we have Alex and then Scott and then Deborah.
I'd like to thank the department for taking my overly aggressive feedback. I believe that this is significantly more fiscally responsible compared to the previous thing, 20 minutes before. And I guess I also just want to state on the record that my interpretation of this is that the department is basically saying that they want to continue the status quo as it was generally understood on the date of enactment for an additional year, as opposed to like something new.
Correct. Scott?
Again, thank you for the revised language. I did want to clarify my question about the understanding the status quo, and this is probably more maybe understanding from your constituents about what programs would not be included within this. And I gave a hypothetical before, but I forgot that I brought examples of realistic programs in Virginia, and just to make sure that these are the types of programs. And so I have a public institution, I have a for-profit institution, and the program is physician assistant. And I've looked on their website, and I can't find anywhere on there that, whether they're professional or not. So my understanding, and they publish their tuition and fees for fall 2026. So for students that are applying to that program now, they would not qualify for this what we've just added to it, the interim definition of a professional student, meaning that, so right now their annual tuition is about $27,000. Their loan limit would be capped at 20,500. For the public institution and for the for-profit, it's about 36, and that's just tuition and fees. That doesn't include other cost of living elements, but what they would need to pay to the institution. So I just want to clarify that what I understand is from what we talked about with status quo, that this is an example of a student in a program that is applying now, and even though it's published what the tuition is, they would only be eligible for $20,500 in direct unsubsidized loans for graduate study. Is that correct?
Andy has asked if he could respond to that.
You
Andy?
may have missed what Jacob just said. If the program leads to professional licensure, which physician assistant indeed does, it's actually going to be okay for that designation.
Okay.
And then for the period, correct me if I'm wrong, the period between July 1st of 26 through June 30th of 27, if they enrolled and get Title IV of any kind in that time period, they're then in the legacy program.
Okay.
So long
Jacob?
so long as the institution is representing to students that it will lead to professional licensure and is at or above or at the graduate level or at least above the bachelor's.
And does not cease to be enrolled.
Okay. Thank you.
We could go to Deborah.
Thank you for the amended language. We appreciate it. Just a point of clarification for myself. So understanding after the transition period for the bifurcated definition and we revert to the original proposed text, which will be the permanent standing, did we receive validation or am I correct in assuming that the increased loan limits for graduate and professional students in healthcare programs, that is not touched and that remains in effect?
At this point, we are thinking that we are getting clarification. We've not received our clarification specifically. We have a tentative, but we do not know for sure. So we can't answer that piece yet.
Thank you.
Ashley?
I appreciate the changes you've been doing all day on this particular section. And I know it has not been easy, but since it's very important, obviously, and new, I'm not going to be participating in a pulse check because I need to take this back to my constituency and reflect and digest and consult. So I just wanted to make that on the record.
We haven't asked for one.
Well, I'm just letting you know.
Timothy?
Just to comment real quick with these particular types of graduate programs that lead to licensure, almost all of them require passing licensure exams as part of the degree program. So that in of itself is evidence that it meets this criteria. Counseling, whatever else it may be, MPH, MSN, DMP, whatever it is.
Thank you for saying that.
Ashley, is your card up from before? Thank you. We're at 2 minutes of the hour and I see no other cards.
Great. So we're going to wrap this up. Pun intended. Sorry, can't help myself. It's a little late in the day. Thank you guys so much for all the hard work that you have exercised today, working with us, trying to go back and forth, negotiating the language back and forth. We really appreciate you hanging in there with a very long day of a good, very long hours of caucus. And we look forward to tomorrow. What we hope to do tomorrow is to navigate through the rest of the amendatory text that we have and do pulse checks on that. We will have some time for a few scenarios, but given where we are right now, we probably will not be doing that the whole day because we have a lot to discuss. We need to make sure that on this proposed amendatory text that we have the pulse check to know where we are to see if there are things that we need to go back to the table to do. So thank you for your contributions to today's discussion and all of the changes that we've made. And I love Alex's comment where he's like, my aggressive approach to all of this. We very much appreciate you working with each other and working with us. Have a great evening. We'll try to have a better roadmap for you in the morning and have a great night.